So for geography this week, I saw Happy Learning. I'm just going to do what she lays out in her geography video. So I will link you to her video because she sings it so beautifully. And I do not sing it as well as her. But basically the idea is we're going to review these waters from week 2. So I'll just go over those with them briefly. And they know these really well. We've referenced them a lot. With our other geography and even some of our history sentences. So Baltic Sea, North Sea, English Channel, Mediterranean Sea, and the Adriatic Sea. And then we're just adding on Black Sea, Caspian Sea, Aral Sea, White Sea, and the Barents Sea. So the way I remember these down here is Adriatic, Black, Caspian, A, B, C for each one. Adriatic starts with A, Black Sea starts with B, Caspian Sea starts with C. So after I go through these 3 C's, then we come up here and I say this one kind of looks like a kitty cat, like its head and its little paw, and then its back legs and its tail. And then lastly, we have the big Barents Sea in the north. European waters, Baltic Sea, North Sea, English Channel, Adriatic Sea, Mediterranean Sea, Black Sea, Caspian Sea, Aral Sea, White Sea, Barents Sea. For history, we're going to use motions, and I found my motions from a cute little YouTube channel of 2 students that show the motions, so I will share the link to that. And then I just changed a couple of the motions to kind of go along with ones that my students will be more familiar with that kind of correlate with our timeline motions more. So I gave you where you can see more of my body because you kind of use your motions a little bit more with this one. So, okay, you have to watch the cutie girls that do it, but you start with Napoleon Bonaparte of the French Empire was defeated, and I'm going to use this for defeated because it's the sign that we use for timeline for conquer, was defeated at the Battle of Waterloo. And then you just do motions, like a watery motion. And then by British General Wellington and his allies, and then they just put their arm around their friend or whoever's next to him. Soon after the War of 1812 in the United States. And so the girls in the video, they go like this, to show united, and but I'm just gonna put our hand on our heart, like the Pledge of Allegiance that we do in the United States. So I'll do it again. Napoleon Bonaparte of the French Empire was defeated at the Battle of Waterloo by British, and I love this salute, British General Wellington and his allies soon after the War of 1812 in the United States. And as you have little ones, I would definitely just cut out at whatever doesn't make sense. You can even just have them dance around. I learned that the hard way when I was with little ones. I tried to do all the timeline motions. I tried to do history motions and science motions. I mean, I had so much and so many songs that I was trying to remember, and it was just really, really hard to keep everything straight when I was in front of them. And they're so little, they're just kind of learning how to behave in a classroom and in a structured time, and it just wore me out. So starting in week 13, I was I can't do this anymore. I cannot keep up with all of this. And so I would just have them make up a dance, or I just did something super simple, or even just an activity to where I wasn't having to remember all the motions for everything. And so I did that with history a lot, or I just do super, super simple motions. And then for science, I would do sometimes emotions just really made sense for whatever it was, and so I would do them for that. But then a lot of times I would have a little craft or something that they were doing, or a coloring sheet that they were doing, just something that was simpler and not as much for them to have to do with their hands. for math, we are done with the multiplication tables and skip counting. So it's a lot less to memorize and a lot less to have to go through. So it's teaspoons and tablespoons. So to the song, I don't know what the tune is. Okay, I don't know what the name of the tune is. I can only sing the teaspoons, tablespoons, like the liquid equivalents is the only thing I can sing in my head, but I know it's like a very famous nursery rhyme. But it goes, okay, so we go like this, like we're gonna sip tea. So 3 teaspoons equals 1 tablespoon. 2 tablespoons equal 1 fluid ounce. And then the song continues on into next week, so we'll just sing the whole thing. But for this week, it's really just the teaspoons. 3 teaspoons equals 1 tablespoon. 2 tablespoons equals 1 fluid ounce. But then if you go on, the song is like for next week, for week 13, it's 8 fluid ounces equals 1 cup. 2 cups equals 1 pint. 2 pints equals 1 quart. 4 quarts equals 1 gallon. But I like to teach this a little bit differently. I do the Kingdom of Gallon, so I'll show that for week 13. But for this week, I just use those 2 motions. We're sipping the tea with our 3 fingers up, and then 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons is 1 fluid ounce. So we'll go through the motions for math, and that's it. For indefinite pronouns, it starts week 11, and it goes 11, 12, and 13 are the indefinite pronouns. So I'm going to sing through all 3 weeks with them, and so we'll sing through all of the indefinite pronouns, and I'm just gonna have them do movements every time we do it. So I will put them all either in my descriptions or in a comment, like a list of all the movements I could think of, because I have to have like a list in front of me, because I just feel like when I'm tutoring or when I'm like in front of the class, I can't think on the fly. Like I can't just come up with motions. So like you could do exercises, which is always great because my kids usually want to come up with them. Like the last time we did exercises, they were like, can we do this one? Can we do that one? And so whatever they came up with, we just did that. But you could have them like stand like a soldier, hold their nose, flap their arms. You could have one student come in the class and they could choose the motion, and you know, everybody would just have to follow whatever they do. So you could have like a lead the class one where everybody gets a turn coming up with motions that everyone has to follow. You can have them clap, balance on one foot. There's a ton of them. I'll have them all there for you to see. But so we're gonna sing through it and do motions. We're gonna do movements, not like motions. We're just gonna move, like exercise or do some like fun movement while we sing. So for Latin, we are repeating what they learned last week with the future perfect tense, and I have an arrow as the symbol. Like we as Christians, when we look forward to our eternal future, it is perfect in heaven with the Lord. Those who are in Christ have a perfect eternal future with the Lord. So that's our symbol and the idea behind that. And so what I'm going to have them do this week, I thought you could, just have them point to the chart like with a arrow pointer, or you could write endings out on the note cards and shuffle them up and have them order the endings. That's a really good way to test that they know them. But I haven't done this yet, and so I thought it might be fun. My ESL students really loved whenever we would do this. So I just draw like a little face on my finger, and when I had little ones, I drew it for them with just like a permanent marker, or I might have even just used a pen, but a marker is super fast. And so I just drew a little face, and you could just do like funny faces or whatever, and then they like teach the endings to their fingers. So it's like, okay, you guys, this is our second week, you know these really well, so you're going to teach your little friend here the endings. And so they always think this is so funny. And then you can have them like, okay, find a buddy, and then they like hold their fingers up and say the endings to their friend's little face. And anyway, it's always a big hit. And so they'll do this, and then you can have them like point whenever you say like, shoot, I don't want to say it wrong. Whenever you say first conjugation endings, future perfect tense, they like point up like, or out to the future, future perfect tense. So that's what I'm going to do with them for Latin. All right, for timeline motions. So I think what I'm going to do for an activity, since it's like our last week, yeah, it's our last week before break, so they'll choose their activity. So if they want to have me like tape them on their backs, I can do that and order them, or if they'd rather me just like throw them on the ground and scatter them and they can put them in order, we'll do that. So I'll let them choose their activity, but first we'll go through the motions and sing it a few times, and then we'll play that activity where they have to try to put them in order. So to start, we have Genghis Khan rules the Mongols. So you do a G. Genghis Khan rules the Mongols, and then you just march. England's Magna Carta. So you have a flat hand, and then your other hand just kind of grabs the fingers on the other one. So England, this is how we always do for England. So England's Magna Carta, meaning Great Charter, so we do great. And then remember when we did Babylon and we did the L for the law, so we're going to do the same type of thing, but we're going to use a C. So England's Magna Carta. And then for Ottoman Empire, you just make an O, and then you kind of act like you're tracing the shape of Turkey. So Ottoman Empire, and then Marco Polo's journey to China. So you do Marco Polo's journey to China, and then you're like doing the buttons that are on the traditional Chinese clothing. And then the 100 Years' War, so you do 100 and then war, so 100 Years' War and Black Death, and then you like act like you're dying. And then the Renaissance means rebirth. So you like have your, you like touch one hand out and then one hand like on your stomach, like there's a baby in your belly, and then you just pull it out and like sit it on your other hand. So I always thought this was a funny motion. And it's always really fun if you have like a pregnant mama in your class. I know I always point out their baby in their belly. So have one hand out, and so the Renaissance, and you tell them it's the rebirth, like what we already learned about, and see if any of them can remember. What was the Renaissance about? What was it the rebirth of? And anyway, okay. So for China's Ming Dynasty, you do the buttons that are worn on the traditional Chinese clothing. So China's Ming Dynasty, and most of the Great Wall of China was built during China's Ming Dynasty, during the Ming Dynasty. So you're just gonna have your fingers like they're bricks, stones that are being built, like you're building the Great Wall. For science, we have other bodies in our solar system. So I saw this from another tutor where you give everybody 4 pieces of paper that they crumple up, and then they take turns, they like get in a line, and as you're saying the endings, they're trying to throw this into a basket. And so you could just have like a basket on like a trash can, like trash get ball, where they throw it into the trash bin, or like you could hold your arms out and have them try to like get it in your arms. And so they always love that when it like hits you in the face and stuff. But the tune that I'm doing this to is the Star Wars theme. And so I don't have a recording, but there are like lots of other people that have sang this on YouTube. So I will link a video for you of some people singing it better than I can. But the tune is like, what are some other bodies in our solar system? Asteroids, meteoroids, meteorites, comets. So just do the Star Wars theme, and it's kind of fun because we're like in outer space and it's Star Wars. So most of them will be really familiar with that tune. So I thought that was so cute, and I love the idea of having them throw these while they sing. I think that'll be a fun activity. So we might end with this just because it might get a little rowdy, and then it'll be a good time to move into snack or something where they can like, you know, not have to concentrate after they do the throwing, all the excitement. So I think I'll probably do that one last.
Time for a history sentence.
breakdown, and the flu done blew through my house, and I am recovering, so hopefully I don't sneeze in this video, but if I do, I apologize. I want to just look at our history sentence from this week, and we're just going to break it down. So the first chunk says Napoleon Bonaparte of the French Empire. Well, immediately, I've got a question. I thought that France just had a revolution. Didn't they just have this big revolution? Well, the answer is yes. And Napoleon Bonaparte came into power after the French Revolution. Now, in the revolution, they were trying to put forth a constitutional monarchy. Well, the revolution wasn't unsuccessful. It's just it took a little time to get to their end goal, and Napoleon Bonaparte was a part of getting there. After the revolution, he helped to defend France's new government in a series of wars, and so he became like a French military hero. And a new government called the Consulate took over France, and Napoleon became their leader. And he made some important changes. Most importantly, he introduced a new set of laws called the Napoleonic Code. So this code made laws the same all over France, and it put an end to special treatment of nobles. And he also continued to try to gain new land for France. So he fought lots of wars with European powers, and he really built France into this empire because of all these Napoleonic wars that were going on. And by 1800, France was the strongest power on the continent of Europe, but the other countries continued to fight against Napoleon. They weren't just like, oh yeah, we're all gonna let France be the strongest power. No, they fought back. So that gets us into Battle of Waterloo. So we said Napoleon Bonaparte of the French Empire, here he is, crowned Emperor of France. Well, he was defeated at the Battle of Waterloo. So now I want to know, what is this Battle of Waterloo? Well, the Battle of Waterloo, we get to that because he had been fighting all these other wars. So these other countries banded together, and this was a chance for them to defeat Napoleon. So before that, this is kind of interesting. This is crazy. So in Russia, Napoleon goes to fight in Russia, and hundreds of thousands of soldiers died in the cold Russian winter, not by the hands of Russian soldiers, but by the Russians' brutal cold winter. And don't forget that Russia's winters are so brutal and deadly. Russia's weather, their cold winters, played a huge part in other world wars that we will study this year. After hundreds and thousands of soldiers have died in this cold Russian winter, Napoleon's enemies saw their chance. They're going to join together, and they're going to force Napoleon from power. And so this is in 1814. And Napoleon gets sent away to a small island off the coast of Italy called Elba. Now, don't confuse this. This is different from the Elba River we studied about. That's up in Germany and the Czech Republic. This is down a little island off of Italy called Elba. So he's exiled there. You see him here standing on the island of Elba. He gathers supporters. He's able to get enough support. He goes back and he seizes power again. And this is known as the 100 Days. And it lasted until he was defeated at the Battle of Waterloo by British General Wellington and his allies. And I wanted to know, who were Britain's allies? Britain's allies were a lot of Europe, really. We're talking Great Britain, Austria, Prussia, Russia. After Napoleon's defeat at the Battle of Waterloo, he was sent away to St. Helena, an island in the South Atlantic Ocean, and he died. And Napoleon wrote while he was there, and he believed that he was being poisoned by the British. But others say that he was probably he died of stomach cancer. Okay, so the last part of our history sentence. Oh my goodness. It says this happened soon after the War of 1812 in the United States. And so I'm like, what does the War of 1812 in the United States have to do with Napoleon and his wars? I really want to encourage you to read chapter 29 in The Story of the World, Volume 3. If you have access to that at your library or you own it, it's a great chapter. It really explains this so well. Like, my question is, what role did France, like Napoleon's France, play in the War of 1812 in the United States? So I'm just going to say this one simple little nugget, but there's so much more that you can know about it, of course, is that while these wars were happening with Napoleon, so we have France, and like I said, Great Britain was France's enemy in these Napoleonic wars. And so in this bitter conflict that went on, both the French and the British wanted to block the United States from trading with each other. So like, France didn't want Britain trading with the United States, and Britain did not want France trading with the United States, and so they were blocking trading, and that was really frustrating to the United States. And so there were a lot of other things happening. There were other causes that caused the War of 1812, but that's one of them, just so you can kind of see that connection between what's happening in Europe with Napoleon and his wars and how it was affecting the United States, how it was affecting other parts of the world. And one big way was the trade routes. And so I have the picture of the ships because that is how they were trading back then. And it is one of the causes, one of the things that sparked this war in 1812.